Welcome to Off Balance, the podcast where faith, family, and business collide. I'm Dr. Brooks, a certified master life coach, transformational speaker, and author. Join me as we explore the journey of overcoming adversity and developing resilience. It's time for you to find your strength and reclaim balance. This is Off Balance.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Off Balance, the podcast where faith, family, and business collide. I'm your host, Dr. Brooks, and I'm glad you're here. I did an episode a few weeks ago where I dove into the topic of reduction in force, what it means, why it happens, and what to expect. I heard from a lot of you after that one. You guys really liked that episode. Some of you said it gave you clarity. Others said it felt like, it was an honest conversation and they have not been receiving a lot of information at work. And I had over 100 downloads for that particular episode, and that matters to me. So today I am going to pick up where I left off, not just asking what if there's a rift, but how do you move through it and beyond it with wisdom and courage? We're going to talk about how to prepare, how to pivot, and how to care for yourself and your family through the unknown. Let's get into it. When a rift becomes real, when notices go out, when teams are shaken up, when your inbox feels like a storm, it's easy to go into survival mode, right? But here's the first thing I want you to hear. You are not powerless. There's a whole chapter in OPM's Workforce Reshaping Handbook that is dedicated to post-RIF actions. And if you're facing this, or might be soon, I want you to know your rights, your options, and your path forward. Here's a few tools that federal government provides for those that are impacted by a reduction in force, which is RIF. So you have what we call CTAP and ICTAP, which is the Career Transition Assistance Plan and interagency version. They are designed to help you get priority placement and open positions if you have been affected. So what that means is if your agency has internal positions, then you would receive priority, and then other agencies within your commuting area, if they have positions, you will also receive priority on consideration. There's also the reemployment priority list. You can register to be considered first for jobs in your agency. And then there's, retraining and upskill programs. Through the partnership or agency sponsor efforts, you may be eligible to shift into new roles based on your experience. And then also there will be VERA, which is voluntarily early retirement, and buyouts, which is VSIP. These are sometimes offered as incentives to make transition smoother for both employees and agencies. Typically, VSIP starts at $25,000. I've seen some agencies offer $40,000. It just depends on, the aggression that they have to try to get people to volunteer to retire versus, having to do a reduction in force. So if you haven't talked with your HR or your RIF team about these things yet, and if your agency is actually having conversations, and then it's time. But what I want you to do is I want you to take some practical steps right now, right? And these are going to be really practical. So here's what you can do if your agency has started talking, reshaping, or a reduction in force. You can update your resume. Use your official position description, your recent accomplishments, and the language of federal hiring. Don't wait until you need it. So typically when a reduction in force is being considered, they'll request your resume, especially if they're trying to do bump and retreat, right? And so you want to make sure that your resume is up to date. I'm going to get into how you can do that in a minute. The next thing that you can do is check your EOPF, which is your electronic official personnel folder. You want to make sure your records, appraisals, service computation dates are accurate. This matters a lot in a reduction in force. You want to, if your agency has any type of career counselors or any transition coaches, you want to meet with them. Some agencies have internal resources. If not, OPM offers support, and there are nonprofit organizations that actually specialize in federal employee transitions. So you want to go to, like LinkedIn and different places to try to find, some of those organizations that can help you. And since this is a faith-based podcast, I encourage you to connect with your faith community or support network. Seriously, you don't want to do this alone. You don't have to carry it alone. God meets us in the moments of uncertainty, but often through the people around us, right? So the people around you will literally encourage you, make sure that you're good mentally. So you don't want to isolate yourself if you're facing a reduction in force. You want to allow people to rally around you. So when it comes to updating your resume, I want you to highlight those transferable skills. Here's the truth. Most federal employees wear a lot of hats. You have probably managed projects, mentored coworkers, responded to shifting priorities, and adapted to new systems. But if it's not on your resume, then hiring managers won't know it, right? So here's a strategy to help you translate your experience into valuable across different roles or agencies. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to reflect on your core competencies. You want to start by identifying the functions you perform, not just the title you held. So think about it. Communication. Have you written reports, given presentations, or brief leadership? What about project management? Have you led or coordinated efforts across teams? What about technology adaptation? Have you trained others or implemented new systems? Let's look at customer service or stakeholder engagement. Did you serve internal or external clients? Consider compliance and policy work. Have you interpreted regulation or enforced guidelines? Those are just some examples. I can go on and on and on. So I want you to make a list of 5 to 7 core skills that you consistently use. These are your transferable assets. And then the second thing I want you to do is translate government speak to human language. I work for a government agency and I know that we have our lingo, but I want you to be able to transfer it to human language. Federal resumes tend to be technical, but for transition purposes, especially if you're applying outside of your agency or even outside the government, clarity is key. For example, instead of managed procurement actions in accordance with FAR subpart 5.2, you can do something like led complex purchasing efforts, ensuring compliance with federal acquisition regulations and timely vendor delivery. You see how that translated outside of the government? And so you want to make sure that you have those two resumes. You're going to have that government resume and you're going to have that private sector resume. In the government resume, it's fine to say managed procurement actions in accordance with FAR subpart 5.15.2. But in the private sector, they don't know what that is. So you can simply say led complex purchasing efforts, ensuring compliance with federal acquisition regulations and timely vendor delivery. Plain language opens more doors, especially if you are okay and comfortable with transitioning to private sector. The third thing that you're going to do is you're going to tailor your resume for target roles. Don't just update it once and send it everywhere. No, look at job announcements, whether internal or external, and highlight the skills and outcomes that match. You can use the qualifications and duty sections of the USA Jobs listing as a guide. You can also do the same thing when you're looking on like Indeed and different, platforms that post jobs. If they're looking for someone with ability to lead a cross-functional team and you've done that during your reorg or system rollout, say so. Use those words. Like, don't lie, but if that's what you've done, say it, right? The fourth thing you're going to do is you're going to build a result-oriented resume. Your experience is more powerful when it shows impact. And this is a formula that you can use. You can use action plus context plus results. So an example would be develop and led weekly staff training sessions to improve case processing times, resulting in a 25% reduction in backlog over 6 months. That sounds like very successful, very accomplished, right? And so that's the approach you want to take to your resume. Action plus context plus results. And that's compelling and it's portable to any team in any agency, any company. And so just make sure you use that formula. Action plus context plus results, right? And I'm going to give you a bonus tip. I want you to keep a living resume document. So what do I mean by living resume document? You can start with like a Google Doc or a personal notebook where you regularly jot down projects, trainings, team wins, and lessons learned. You can update it quarterly. This will save you the time later, because some people haven't updated their resume in years, right? Some people only update their resume when they are seeking a new position. Or no, you should you should always update your resume. Because it's going to remind you of just how much you've grown, and then also it's going to have you where you are already prepared in the event that you don't have a large window of opportunity to apply for a position. And so here's some quick tips this week that I want you to do. I want you to check your EOPF. I want you to make sure your records and ratings are current. If you have availability, or if you have applicability to this, I want you to schedule a career counseling session with your agency or OPM. Or if your agency doesn't have it, if OPM doesn't have anything, check some different nonprofits that offer career counseling. I want you to review the CTAP and CTAP eligibility. I want you to know your status and what it gives you. And then I want you to pray, journal, or talk with someone you trust. You do not have to walk this out alone, right? I assure you, you don't want to walk this out alone. I have been on the end of briefing for reductions in force, doing the retirement briefings, doing the notifications, and I'm telling you, it's a stressful time, and you just don't want to go through this alone. So here's the thing. A RIF affects more than your job. It touches your sense of identity, your rhythm at home, and even your walk with God. And that's all real. This is a serious matter. So don't take it lightly, even if you're not being directly impacted, because this is a very serious matter. Maybe your kids ask, why are you home more? Maybe your spouse is stressed out about money. Maybe you're waking up at 3 a.m. wondering what comes next. So here's what I want to say. You are more than your position. Let me repeat myself. You are more than your position. Romans 8:28 says that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And that includes this moment. Your calling didn't end because your position changed. And so I really want you to understand this. You are still a provider, a leader, a builder, a person with purpose. This transition is hard, but it's also a chance to recenter on what really matters, to find that margin, to hear God in the quiet, to move forward. Maybe not in the way that you plan, but in a way that brings new life. And so if you have been affected by a RIF, I see you. I've been there in my own way, and I want you to know that this community is here for you. If this episode has helped, I want you to share it. If you need prayer, reach out. If you have questions, send them my way. And I probably will do another episode where I will talk about how leaders can lead well through a reduction in force. And so whether you're a supervisor, a team lead, or a mentor to someone who's walking through this, because, leadership matters more than ever. It does. It matters more than ever. So again, I see you. Until next time, I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to honor your family, and I want you to keep walking in faith. Keep walking in faith. So be resilient, and make sure you tune in to the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to rate this episode and share it with your family and friends. To learn more about your host, visit